Hey guys, it's Anthony Bandiero here, attorney and senior legal instructor for Blue Gold Law Enforcement Training, and I have an incredible treat. This podcast is actually from Florida, and I'm in Dog the Bounty Hunter's lair here. This is a real treat for me. I'm a big fan of him and just his life story. I also have a very special guest, his son. Garry is actually a Blue to Gold instructor. He went through our Search and Seizure instructor school in Georgia, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you're a cop where?
Alabama.
Yep.
So.
And you're on the highway.
Yeah, that's right. I do.
Well, not as a trooper, as a local police officer, but you're on the highway for interdiction.
Yep. Interdiction. We do interstate crime enforcement. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I brought a special book just for you. This is Drugs on Wheels. It's the Bible for interdiction. I mean, when a book is this thick, you have to call it a Bible of something. But
Correct.
it's a lot of reading, but basically this is the ultimate reference for what you're doing out there. It was actually just updated by one of our instructors, John Ween, and a phenomenal legal instructor. So that's for you.
I appreciate that.
And Dog, I got a gift for you too. This is
sir.
Search and Seizure book, and
Thank
I know
you.
when you were doing your bounty hunting, you probably didn't really think about the Fourth Amendment too much, did you?
Well, under the law that we had,
Yeah.
we it's same as a police officer or a warrants officer.
Yep.
So we had we had to really watch it. But as far as searching and seizing, I searched the house for the bodies of the individuals, but never their drugs. If I did find drugs on them, I put them on the ground and poured water on them because
Yeah.
I'm not a narcotic agent and I couldn't test it to see if it was real or not, but it was real.
Now, did you ever have a situation where there was just so much drugs, like let's say in plain view, right inside the house and so forth, that you did get law enforcement involved because it's just too much to like pour water on, and like it's almost like a trafficking operation?
Well, many times, but the time I can remember, because Gary's here now, Gary Boy was not allowed to bounty hunt till he was 18.
Mm-hmm.
So I took him anyway, and we went to Pueblo, Colorado. And so, Gary, you can't, in Colorado, the law says, unless you know for sure that someone's in the house, you can't boot the door down.
Right.
So, I knocked on the door. I was up on the porch. I knocked on the door, and Gary kind of hockey checked me off the porch and yelled at the guy. He said, I know you're in there. Come out right now with your hands in the air, right? And the guy's like, you come on in. I'm a felon. And I'll blow... No, he said, I got a gun, and I'll blow your head off. Well, we had run a record check on him, and he's a felon.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, boom, Gary boots the door in, right? And it almost falls on the guy. And then as he's booting it, he runs downstairs. So I follow him downstairs. And Gary was upstairs for some reason, searching everywhere. He's always been a cop, right?
Yeah.
And so I went downstairs, and there was all this white powder on the table.
Yep.
And that's where he's, making pills and all that, right? So I just got ready to swoop it off the, because I poured water on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just was getting ready to swoop it, and he comes screaming, Dad, no, don't touch that. And I said, why? And it was fentanyl.
Oh.
And so, come to find out that the guy across the street had died from fentanyl poisoning, and the ambulance driver, one of the, what do they call, EMTs that
Yep.
carried him, on the stretcher, in the ambulance also died.
Wow.
So, I mean, it was like really pure fentanyl.
Yeah.
Yes. It ended up being carfentanil.
What's that?
So that's the more potent version of fentanyl. There's a pretty big misconception about fentanyl. There's carfentanil and there's fentanyl.
Mm-hmm.
And so carfentanil is the one that you
How do you
see.
spell? You're saying car like C-A-R or no?
I think it's KAR.
Okay.
But
Car.
it's known as carfentanil.
I gotcha.
And so that's the stuff that you see where it's like the little pebble that can kill you. Because that's the carfentanil, and that's
Okay.
not as
Prevalent.
as a lot of officers might think. But
Yeah, I mean, you see the videos online, and cops get near it and they just pass the F out.
like stuff like that is carfentanil. Like if it's something like that where it's taking you out like that, that's carfentanil.
Right.
And that stuff's it's very potent. So.
Right, it can kill you.
Yeah.
So even though, so I I guess Gary Boy saved my life. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because if that stuff would have went in the air and you would have breathed that in.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he was saving his life too. Because he was
Maybe
right.
the suspects too.
He
The
was
whole
right
everybody
behind
would have been dead inside that house.
Yeah.
Well, I think we left him upstairs, didn't we, with Leland?
I don't know.
But yeah, so it was amazing.
Well, there's a transition there too because mostly your family is involved in some way or another in this business, right? Down
Correct.
here.
Correct.
It flows in your blood.
Yes, sir.
Why is that? I mean, you just have just.
Well, I was in prison in the 70s, right?
Mhm.
And I saw how the prison guards treated people, right?
Mhm.
And this, of course, this is the 70s in Texas. So they were very mean, slapped the guys, and, so I thought, you know what? I want to be able to arrest someone,
Mhm.
but do it with dignity, you
Right.
know? So I gave him a cigarette in the back of the car, and a lot of cops still don't do that. And then I, told them about Jesus and, how to get out of this or how to change their whole life, and explained to them, I was once in your shoes, I was in prison. A lot of guys I arrested had no idea that, and they're like, no, and I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
So there is a way out, and the way out is to quit.
Yeah.
Completely change all your friends, just to quit going wherever you score the dope at. And so, Gary was there a lot of times, even as a bystander when he heard it was called the backseat, and still is called the backseat ride. So Gary, has told me a couple times that he gives them, a kind of a chance, because it's a lot different rules as a police officer.
It
than a
is.
bounty
Yeah.
hunter.
You got to be careful with the religion. It can come off. It can be an issue,
Yeah.
right? You have to be very careful crossing that line. But
Yes.
there's still some gray area there, right?
Yeah, so Gary does, when he can, kind of the same kind of way. So,
I mean, let me ask you, how out of 100 people you arrested, for these the skips, right? How many are you actually reaching and actually helping to change their life? How many actually respond to your message?
well, several.
Mhm.
I've arrested over 10,000, probably higher than that now, because that was done years ago. But, and that's personal arrest, not just, I'm in town and the guy takes off and the highway patrol pulls him over, right?
Right.
So,
That's you hands on.
yes, me hands on.
Yep.
So, it's just a whole different job than being a real police officer.
It is, and the thing is, you have, just like you said, you have that credibility. I mean, you've been to prison for what, 3rd-degree murder or something, 2nd degree?
Well,
3rd
it was
degree?
back in Texas in those days. If you didn't report the crime,
Mhm.
you were just as guilty as the guy that pulled the trigger.
Mhm.
So we were all convicted of homicide.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then did you find Jesus in prison?
No, my mother was pure Assembly of God, and I grew up under the cloth, as they say,
Mhm.
and then I backslid, and thank God that I went to prison.
Mhm.
Because if I wouldn't have went to prison, I definitely, and I believe in heaven and hell, and I definitely would be in hell today.
Yeah. So, moving forward, you try to get, I mean, even with this, the when you're arresting people, the drugs, you just, not only are you now a law enforcement officer, you could still call the cops on them. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of bounty hunters out there that would find something illegal and, and be like, hey, look, you're going to jail for that. Here's the cops, here's the evidence. And we call that the silver platter doctrine, where a private person who's a bounty hunter at the end of the day, you have to have a warrant, but you're not operating under the Fourth Amendment. The Fourth Amendment doesn't apply to you because you're not an agent of the government.
Correct.
But the silver platter doctrine, hey, here's this bad stuff, and then the people can be charged. But you're looking for redemption. You're looking for people to redeem their.
Correct. Well, I worked with an FBI agent very closely, named Keith Paul. And so some of the other feds were like, called him and said, listen, you're like basically training dog. And why isn't he booking those guys in jail for, possession of cocaine, crack cocaine, blah, blah, blah. We never found too much powdered speed. It was cocaine and crack.
Mm-hmm.
And Keith Paul, the Fed, said, listen, give him a little kit where he can test it and deputize him on the spot.
Right.
and he'll do exactly that. And so he called me. He said, "Keep pouring water on it and throw it out." So that's, I personally, when I go after someone, it's a felony. Okay, most of my guys went straight to prison because they jumped bail once, they didn't get another shot. So they already got enough. I didn't want to add on.
Right.
And a lot of judges back then, well, in any state, it's either a concurrent sentence or a consecutive. And if the guy had a record, it was concurrent. So he would spend, 35 to 40 years, failed to appear on a burglary, and then with dope, he'd spend 35 years in the penitentiary. Still to this day, I do not believe that's warranted. To
Fair,
put
it's not fair.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because when I was in prison, Texas was 99, a lot of them were 99 years. And I talked to a lot of guys that, do you remember what you did? And you killed, your mother and da-da-da. And they're like, "Dog, I was so high, was so drunk, and it's been 40 years ago. I remember the ambulance and my mom screaming, but I don't remember why." So, when you take someone's life, the Bible says that your life should be taken, the death penalty. But other than that, I believe in, a second chance, and even a third and a fourth and a fifth. But someday, one day, they get the habitual criminal filed on them, and it's over.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw the Antoine Jones podcast. I mean, so there's a guy that sold a lot of drugs in the D.C. area. They call it the DMV, D.C., Maryland, Virginia. I thought that was kind of. So he's selling a lot of drugs, and over. I think at the height of his career, for a lack of a better term, he was moving almost like 500 kilos like a week or something like that, and a lot of drugs. And but he also, I had him on the podcast. He was very, kind of your classic, very tough upbringing. He went to a foster home. He was beaten by his foster parents, his foster dad, and that definitely didn't help him at all. And they split up his siblings, and he went to the streets, started selling drugs. Allegedly didn't do any drugs, which is kind of surprising. He actually wasn't really into. He was just into making the money. Became a millionaire, and then he got sentenced to life in prison. And he got his case overturned by the U.S. Supreme Court, so basically he's a free man today.
Right.
And I spoke to him, and he's out there. He has a nonprofit. He's trying to get more kids off the street. Don't fall down his path. So, and I think that and I want cops to know, and I think you're probably the epitome of this, is that there is redemption, right? I mean, a lot of people, we've all made mistakes.
Yes.
And I've made my mistakes.
A lot of cops made mistakes, just they didn't get caught.
They didn't get caught. In fact,
I was a terrible criminal. I got caught off. There were some felonies, which is I didn't get caught for, but I was a terrible criminal. Most every one I did, I got in trouble for.
Yeah. Actually, I got to tell you, like, some of the best cops, I don't know if you have it, but some of the best cops I've ever met that really just know where the problems are and know how to talk to people were people that I believe had a shady past. Like, there was a time in their life that they probably weren't on the up and up. They were probably stealing cars. They were, maybe not the drugs so much, because that's a hard thing to get into law enforcement if you have a pretty bad drug history. But running amok, they got clean. They went straight. They wanted to become law enforcement. They weren't a bad person. They just hang around with the bad people.
Right. Well, that reminds me of a story. Sorry.
No, I like this.
That I went to Los Angeles, California, L.A., to the city jail.
Yeah.
What a mess. We're full. And so I brought...
What year are we talking about here, for context?
This could be in the 80s.
Okay.
Well, no. Yeah, this was in the 90s.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So I, had it by myself. I go in there. I think Leland was with me, but only one at a time in the prison, right? So they let me into receiving, to give the guy away. So in walks this great 6'4" or 5", big, buff, redheaded guy. And I was like, uh-oh, right? He's like, "What are you doing in here?" And I said, "Well, I'm Dog the Bounty. I don't care who you are. Are you a police officer?" I go, "No, sir." "Well, why are you bringing this guy in my," and it was attempted rape, right? And I told him it's attempted rape. He said, "I don't care what it is. Why didn't you call one of us?" And I said, "Because you guys are too slow. By the time I called dispatch, give me your name, date of birth, give me his name, date of birth, he'd have been gone." So I said, "Haven't you ever seen my show, Dog the Bounty?" "I'm not sure," right? And so I booked the guy, blah, blah, blah. And I looked over, and he had a really tight shirt on. And I looked over, and I saw cigarettes, a pack of cigarettes in his pocket. And I said, do you smoke? And he's like, no. I go, what are the cigarettes for? And he grinned at me and he goes, I saw your show. He goes, did you know that the nicotine is like a true serum that makes people talk? And I go, I didn't know that. And he goes, so I give him a cigarette and then ask him, where'd you buy that dope? You want another cigarette? You better tell me. And so, he said, I'm very proud of you, dog, and I just was razzing you. So,
Oh,
yes.
that's
so
awesome.
that story, you ever heard that story?
No.
Yes.
So, what is like your favorite part of being a bounty hunter? Like, what is like the that just gets your blood moving?
Payday.
Yeah, it's good money.
Well, it was. I love, yes, because we'd catch, our record 6 in a day. And we just book them, Dano, and go to the next and book them. It's a very exciting, thrilling. Your adrenaline is off the rail.
I bet.
Because I'm a convicted felon, okay, and I can't carry a gun. So a lot of them we had to, it's called in Hawaii, skin on skin. We had to throw down with them, and knock them out or whatever. So, it's bad to say, Lord forgive me, but I like that part too,
I understand.
knocking them out.
Yeah.
So, and then it's easy to search them. We just roll them over. One guy was even snoring. But so it's just, you look, and all, because I would take the guy's mugshot, from the warrant, from PD, and I would put it on the dash of my car, and I would stare at it. Then I'd put it on the fireplace, and I'd stare at it all the time, right? I even took it to bed, and I'd look at it just before I went to sleep. And then all of a sudden you're driving around, and it's like ding, 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 shoo, there he is. And the adrenaline, and I think that's the most favorite.
Sure.
Is spotting them, okay?
Right.
I don't care how many, there's
It's like hunting.
Yeah, it's exactly right. There was a great artist who was, I forget his name, but he was a hunter and he was an artist, and he said that he's hunted every animal there is, but he said it takes a hunter to hunt a man. So I forget his name, but he was a great hunter. So that's what I think. It is the most, because they can think. You got to outthink them. You got to outsmart them.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, look, animals are kind of predictable. They have, it's fight or flight, right?
Right.
No, but humans are a little bit more cunning than that. So you did say the money, the payday. What is the pay traditionally, like in your day, when you're at the apex of your career? What does that pay as a bounty hunter?
Well, you got 10% of the bond that was posted. So if you're going after $100,000 guy, you get 10 grand.
Now, okay, so maybe we got the math right. So if I go to jail, and the judge says $100,000 bond,
Correct.
and now to post that, isn't it 10%?
Correct.
Okay, so basically they lose the bondsman loses all their money to you, because they're getting 10%.
Well, on 100,000, they better be taking collateral.
Oh,
so they
I
can
see.
sell
It's,
some
right,
of the
course.
collateral and pay us.
I see. So you're getting the cash part, they're getting the collateral part.
Correct.
Right. And
Well, they're supposed to, I charge them a minimum, okay, and they're supposed to pay me out of that, okay. But a lot of bondsmen back then, I don't know how they are today, but they're very. Anyway, so they would bill the co-signers, and it wasn't right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then I became a bail bondsman myself,
I got you.
and I
It
was
was Hawaii?
in Hawaii and Colorado.
Right.
And I had more calls than any other bail bondsman there ever was. Because the rumors got out, dog will do you right. He'll go to court for you. I hear Garry does that too, witnesses, for the defendant he picks up.
Yep.
That right there makes a good bounty hunter and makes a superior policeman.
It does.
Yes.
And actually that's one thing I love about Garry is that he you don't forget the people part of this, right? It's a people business, and these defendants are people too, and I like to say I don't respect what they do to other people, but I respect them as a human being. I respect that there are that they have redemption, that they actually can change their life, and hopefully they will. I know a lot of people. I mean, it happens at the small level. There's people that go to jail for DUI, and they don't touch a drop of liquor ever again in their whole life. There's people that go for felonies, and they come out, and but a lot of people again And I just want to go back to what you said. I love what you said about you got to get them a complete change of environment.
Yes.
Yeah.
New friends, new city even.
New city, absolutely. Pick up and go.
A lot of people don't want to move. that are addicts because they got a specific dealer, right?
That's right.
And they know if they move out of state, how they going to find dope.
Well, that's why they should move out of
Exactly
state.
right. Yes.
Yep.
And Gary, let's back to Gary boy.
Yeah.
So ever since he was 2 years old, okay, he tried to hide in my boot one day, and it's on the show.
Were you British?
I had cowboy boots, and he had his
that one
hands in
boots,
there,
yeah,
and
that's
another
right.
cowboy boot over his head. And I looked in the back. I said, "Gary boy, where you go?" "I'm gonna be a bounty hunter, Daddy." I go, "Well, you can't till you're 18." Said, "I want to do it now. It's my birthday."
Right.
And I didn't take him, but he was a lot different. You know, I cried talking about crying, but he was a ball baby. Right? He would cry so hard because Daddy wouldn't take him bounty hunting. And so then, as he got older, 18 he turned. Then we filmed, with him, and he drove a car, I drove a car, and then I think his mom drove the other car. And he got in the car, and I'm going, I'm on the way to a jump, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what? You got to get there, right? And if ever I got pulled over, I said, "Officer, I'm looking for this guy. Here's the thing. Follow me. Let's go." Oh, they go with me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we were going to catch a guy, and we had to get there quick, right? We just got somebody dropped a dime on him. So I'm going a little fast, and Gary's like, "Dad, we've been on," and he's on the radio live or not live, but he's on the radio, and there's GoPros and cameramen and everything. I never saw if they put the show on, but he goes, "Dad, we're out here on this bounty, and you've broken code 10678 of the Colorado Revised Statute. You're already committed 2 misdemeanors before we even caught the guy." And I'm like, "Gary boy, how do you know all this?" He brought some red book with all the Colorado statutes in it.
The pocket PC book.
Yeah. Oh, you remember that, huh?
Yeah, I remember.
So Gary, cops are called to be police officers.
They are,
You
yeah.
just don't wake up one day and go, "Oh, I want to be a cop, a fed. I want to be a narc." Through their life, God, the Bible says that if a man would lay down his life for a friend or someone he don't even know,
Yeah.
that man is blessed of God. And that's what cops, police officers, the law enforcement is. You just don't wake up one day and go, "Oh, I want to be a cop." God called them to be a police
I
officer.
agree, yeah.
And I know a lot of guys that God called them to be police officers, and they never became their welders and all that. And they were like, "Dog, I would give my left arm to be able to carry a badge."
Yep.
I still carry my badge everywhere I go. Do you?
No,
Oh, you don't?
it depends.
In your wallet?
No,
Let me see
I
your
keep
wallet.
my ID on me. That's it.
Oh, well.
That's a new cop thing too. I think they're almost taught if you have it on, you get robbed, and they see the badge. It's more right. I mean, that's what I was told.
Well, so when I first got out the academy, I was carrying my badge and going everywhere, because I was so proud of it, and I was like, I'm gonna have it on.
Well, you also
what if something happens? I want to be
Yeah.
get on the ground. But as I've kind of moved on in my career, it's good to have a separation, because if you're just cop all the time, then you're gonna get pretty burnt out.
Yeah.
And so for me, whenever I put that patrol car in the driveway and I turn it off and I separate from the car, I separate.
Now, brother, he's just saying this for his wife.
No.
Yeah, but what I will say, I'll say one thing from a legal perspective. I do worry about the cops that can't turn it off, and they're in
Yes.
cop mode. They're trying to get shoplifters in custody.
Yeah, yeah.
They're looking, they're badging people because they're speed. It's you got to be kind of careful of your off-duty presence.
Yeah.
There's a time to get involved, and there's a time just to
Yeah.
I'm
Don't
not
get
working.
don't get me wrong. We'll be driving down the road and I'll have my wife in the car and I'll be like, "Oh, that guy's DUI."
100% sure. Yeah.
And I'm like, he is and I'll get on the phone and I'll be that guy that makes the call every time.
Yeah.
Because I'm very passionate about getting guns, drugs, and money, but also DUIs off the street.
Because they're dangerous.
Yeah, all of the the 3 cartel things, and then also DUIs. That's my passion. I'm actually going to SFST instructor school at the end of the year.
Okay.
But going back to that, it's having that disconnect for me is when I started getting a lot less burned out.
Yeah, that's why at his anniversary or his wedding day, he gave his wife Miranda rights.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know.
she
that.
probably invoked
You have the
too.
right to
Yeah.
remain
She
silent.
probably wanted to
Yeah.
say silent.
Yeah.
What does God say about firefighters? Does God talk about firefighters in the
No.
book? No, probably not.
No.
Just I think we're the chosen profession.
That's
I mean,
right.
So the firefighters that are watching this, please, just remember that we're the chosen profession. I
Yeah,
don't say
sure.
anything about firefighters. in
Yeah.
the
Well,
Bible.
firefighters and those guys, they're the what is it called? The first responders.
They're second.
They're
responders.
secondary
Second
responders.
responders.
They actually may be third because
Well-
people are the first responder.
Yeah.
Cops are the second.
Right.
Yeah.
You're responsible for your own safety, and then the firefighters come in when everything is safe.
Once I've called over the radio that the scene's clear, they can
Yeah.
move in.
Look. Just kidding aside. There's two professions that make money in bed, and one's a firefighter.
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's true. There's strip calendars. And
Yeah,
all
yeah.
that.
Hey, maybe that's why they did the
Yeah.
the calendars.
Yeah,
look,
that's fine.
look. We'll get back on task here, but I'm just a little jealous because I stood in the wrong line. If I was a firefighter, maybe I'd be a happier person.
Well, I don't like fire. I don't know how they can go in there and do that.
Well,
That is
they-
like, and a lot of them die. They just, again, they have a special calling.
They do. They
And
do.
I
I razz them because they do. It's a
banner that
it's a
we
banter that we have.
Yeah.
Hoses and what?
Hose draggers.
No, the hose draggers, but it was guns and hoses.
Yeah.
Let me ask you. I know your favorite part, which I totally understand. It's that adrenaline. It's just the excitement to get your blood pumping. What's the worst part about being a bounty hunter? Just the part I tell you for being a cop, it's the paperwork, right? It's just there's so much paperwork in this job. I hate it, right? It has to happen, but what about?
Well, I used to paperwork
Mhm.
when I was allowed to do it, which I was in Jefferson County. I got a blank one and then made copies and had it all filled out when I got there, and all the cops would be like, "Wow."
Yeah, you're in and out.
Yeah, in and out, right? And I was going to say, he's a first responder. I'm the last responder.
Mhm.
But we're still, I may be on the bottom of the totem pole, but I am a bounty hunting cop, and I'm a very good, trying every day to be a Christian.
Yeah.
And I'm very proud. I cry very easy. I'm very proud of myself
Yeah.
for being now with the Lord.
Yep.
And his new wife, and him being a freaking cop. I'm so proud of that.
Absolutely. But the other thing is but even your job as a bounty hunter, I mean, you help keep the community safe because if these people are still absconding, they are a lot of them are still violating other laws. It's not just that they're a fugitive, but they're also still involved in gangs.
And there's a big thing that people don't understand is especially in the bigger metropolitan cities.
Right.
Like normal patrolmen are call to call. Like they don't have time to go pick up a warrant stack and try to find guys.
No, right.
And so you can even have fugitive teams and warrant teams and all that, but they're going to prioritize. They're going to be going off of the biggest and the baddest that they've got,
Yeah.
or who the DA's office is asking them to pick up. And so that's where that gap comes in, and that's where bounty hunters and fugitive agents come in, and they help out with that. They're getting the favor to appears on traffic offenses, or they're getting the DUI FTAs, and they're getting all the way up to just the normal possession of controlled substance, but also the more dangerous crimes. And so a lot of people don't even really understand the whole thing that happened with Andrew Luster.
Right.
What's that?
So go ahead. I mean, you can tell a story, but it's something that as a law enforcement officer, I mean, we would have never been able to do. We would have lost our job. We would have been in federal court. I mean,
Well, cops have to, from county to county, they have to pass it on. If a guy's, going, they can't chase him from state to state even.
Mm-hmm.
We can. We can chase him even out of the country.
Isn't there a Supreme Court case on bounty hunting?
Yes.
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 Yeah, it's from late
Yes,
1800s.
1876, and
Yep.
it was signed by Abraham Lincoln.
Nice. Yep.
That you as a bondsman can hire an agent to go do, pick a guy up. And
Right.
so that's where bounty hunting came in.
Right.
Nowadays, They're called fugitive recovery agent, because a lot of bounty hunters want to look like cops. You know what I mean?
They 100% they do.
And I don't.
Yeah.
You know, how many times have you seen a cop that looked like me, right? So
Undercover.
Yeah.
you're way undercover.
Way undercover. Deep undercover.
Deep
yeah,
undercover. So I mean, before I got known, I could walk right up to different motorcycle gangs, because I was a motorcycle outlaw gang guy, and I could walk right up to them, and I'd make up an alias, and
Yep.
walk right into their camps. Right nowadays, no.
But okay, so are you saying that you had a fugitive that was like embedded in the motorcycle gang, and you would just go right up there and just take them in custody in front of all their friends?
Well, here's what happened. with
Yeah,
this
please
guy.
tell me this.
So I was in South Dakota,
Okay.
okay? And it was an outlaw. It was, back then they were, I don't even know how they are today, and I apologize to the outlaws if this is wrong. But, so I boxed, and I had a crew cut, right? And I had this dyed blonde, which is my hair's dyed now. And then the sides were really short, right? And so I walked into this place, and they're all like looking at me like, whoa, right? And they go, one of the big guys goes, I said, what's your name? I go, Dog. He goes, Dog. I said, yeah. He goes, what's your real name? And I go, Garry Chapman. And he goes, how old are you? And I told him, he goes, you ain't that old. And I go, yeah, what's your date of birth? So I told him, I knew what he was doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he ran over to this other guy, cop, sitting there. And what he was doing is getting my date of birth, my real name, for that guy to run my record.
Yep.
So I'm
Was the cop dirty?
I don't know.
He was there with the group.
He was
though.
there with the group.
Okay.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. So I was shooting pool, and so the guy that I instantly recognized, he was a patch holder.
Yep.
No, he was a prospect.
Okay.
And I instantly recognized him, right? And of course, when you see him, you don't stare at him, look at him.
Yep.
You just don't do that, because they're very intelligent, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of crooks are dumb, but some are not.
Well, they're
they're
smart.
paranoid.
Huh?
They're paranoid.
They're paranoid. They're smart on certain things, right?
Correct.
And this is one of the things
Correct.
about they're a fugitive. Yeah. They're smart on being a fugitive.
Yeah,
So-
they'll overthink everything.
Yeah.
So I saw, I'm shooting pool, and I saw the guy call, the cop call him over and say, hey, showed him like that. And he goes, oh, how you doing, my brother? I go, good. Didn't you used to ride? I go, yeah, Devil's Disciples. Oh, man. So, I did a couple shots with him and all that, right? So then the other guy, wanted guy, come over, he goes, so I hear you're cool. I go, yeah. I go, do a couple shots. And he goes, well, and I'm half Apache, and he goes, what do you like? And I said, I love tequila. How much can you drink? And I said, more than you. And so he filled up a glass about like that, right?
Yep.
And I go, you go first, right? And he goes, okay. And he hit it, right? I mean, he drank every bit of it down. He went like that, right? And he goes, within like 4 minutes, he started, now you do one. And I go, okay, what's the matter with you? He goes, I'm getting really sick. I go, come on, man, let me take you outside. Come on, don't throw up in here. Come on, brother. And I held him out like that. And so my car was sitting right in front, and I go, here, come over here. And he started throwing up. He was kneeling down like that, throwing up, right? So I grabbed him really quick and, locked him up, right? What are you doing? He was so drunk. So I put him in the passenger side, didn't put no seatbelt on. I just, I rented a car, right?
Mm-hmm.
A truck. And so I started taking off, and all of a sudden I hear all these Harleys starting
up.
because they knew,
Yep.
that's Dog the Bounty Hunter. That ain't Dog, Disciple anymore.
Right.
And so I could hear the hogs coming. Just then, I looked down and this little light went on. And it was out of gas, kind of out of gas. And that's when the trucks first did that.
Yeah.
I had no idea it still had 5 or 40 miles left, right?
Yep.
So I punched it, and I knew that, I knew they weren't going no 120 miles an hour, right?
Right.
And that was before they had governors in all the vehicles. And I mean, this truck was going. I mean, I buried the speedometer, right? Head to the airport. Lord, in Jesus' name, don't let these guys catch me. Don't let these guys. And the guy said, "You're gonna get caught." Bam! Shut your mouth. I told him, right? Slapped him, hit him like this part of my fist in the mouth, and I tell you, shut up, punk. And I don't know what his charge was, but it was something against women, right? And so I got to the airport. Like that. And so I told this kid that was standing there, I go, listen, I badged him. I go, here, I got this prisoner I got to take in right now. You take this over to Hertz. And he goes, okay. So I give him $50. I go, you check it in. My name's Garry Chapman. Check it in over there. And once we got in the airport, I knew right then. Because back then it was, you still had to go through the gun thing or the metal detector.
Sure, yeah.
And once I got through that, I knew I was
safe.
Home.
You're home free.
But I was very I could admit I was scared that they were going to catch me.
Yeah, you think they would have?
Oh,
I mean,
they would have shot me, and
it would, a death sentence for what you did.
Oh yeah.
I mean, so okay. So what was your plan then? I mean, you're going in there, and you have a goal in mind, and the tequila thing kind of worked itself out. That's Providence there. But if you didn't have that opportunity for the tequila, you would have to do it the old-fashioned way, right? Put hands on it?
No, I would have never. You law enforcement or undercover. You got to be very careful, okay? And you got to look like them. You got to talk like them. You got to be them, right? You're undercover. So that's what I was, okay? I would have never got him. I didn't even know he was in there for sure. I just knew that.
You were just scoping
I
it
saw
out.
the choppers and I was like, oh. And I asked some old man who's in there, and he goes, oh, that's the whatever the club's name was. What'd I say? There's so many clubs. The Outlaws. Okay, and I said, oh, so I knew he was an outlaw, right? And so if it wouldn't have happened like that, it was just God that got him off the streets and saved my life.
Yeah.
But I would have never done it
You
like
would
that.
have left and just tried for another opportunity.
Yes, I hate stakeouts. I hate them. It's called bird dogging. I would go to all the neighbors and pass out the mugshot and say, no one's going to know. Here's a special number. Call me if you see this guy. I cannot stand sitting for hours overnight drinking coffee, staying awake. And
well, see, there's the thing. See, I asked him what was the thing he hated about bounty hunting the most. There it is, right there.
Yeah,
right.
Stakeout. I hate it.
Yeah.
Well, so I'll tell you a story before I became an officer. It was Leonard Trujillo.
Yeah.
You remember him?
Yeah.
So yeah, he was wanted on a lot of domestic violence charges, and
well, he was a leader of the Mexican mafia up there in Pueblo.
Yeah. So it was in Pueblo, Colorado, and that was like almost a 2-week case, and we never. I mean, at that point, it was like we never did. We don't do 2-week cases. Like that was very rare, and so. That was one thing that was just killing us, was having to do those stakeouts that we were doing, because a lot of the people up there were very cliquish, and like we weren't able to go in and bird dog them or whatever, and so
because even like the motorcycle gang thing. I mean, you look like a biker, you know what I mean?
Right.
And but you don't look like a MS-13 or Mexican Mafia, so
exactly.
That's a problem.
Yeah,
we luckily got in the house, and then I got this girl back in the room, and I'd already talked to her before, and I go, I'm going to tell you right now, sister. And his mom was yelling at this other girl and said, I know you know where he is. And I let her yell, and I went to the side. It was her last bounty. And I went into the side, and I said, listen, I'm going to tell you what, my wife's dying. And if you don't tell me, and I find out that you knew he's here somewhere, because we searched the whole house, I just had a feeling he was there somewhere. And I said, I'll kill you. Do you understand that? For my wife, I will blow your head off. Where is he? He's in the back. Back where? He's in the back in the garage. And so my bounty hunter, or my bodyguard, or my Sonny Westbrook, beat me to the punch, beat me in there, right? And there he was, man. And then this drug addict guy that he had in there, there was a 5-gallon bucket, and he was so high, he was trying to hide in the bucket and put the other bucket over his head, right? And I looked over and I said, "Hey, Buckethead, what are you doing?" I brought him out, and he had this whole, remember the case he had full of all the dope? That's when the law came, right?
Right.
I told Beth, call 911 and get me some narcs. And I mean, he had this case like this, and it had needles, the coke, marijuana, speed, methamphetamine, and he had all of them in little baggies and had it all marked.
You gotta respect his organization. I mean,
that's what I say. He was the drug professor. We called him. And we left. I don't know what they did to him, but they told him, "You got a problem, buddy."
Yeah, I think you kind of like about maybe the asking dog about the future and
yeah.
differences.
So, a question that I have is, how is bounty hunting from when you first started? How is it, developed throughout your life and your career to where it is now? I would say there's a whole lot more laws now. So, I mean, what's your perspective?
Well, when I first started, there were no bounty hunter laws.
Right. Anywhere?
No, nowhere. No one knew nothing about bounty hunters. It was, back in the day, Wild Wild West days, right?
Right.
Even cops told me, "You can't do this," okay? So, I slapped that biker I told you about, and I did, I was, hitting Andrew Luster with my elbow like that one, because he had 87 counts, so I was going to give him 87 cracks, right? Mm-hmm. Big guy. And he looked at me and goes, "What are you doing, dog? This is a big man," right? And so it is, now today, if I'd have done that, and he tried to get me charged with assault, but if I would have done that, or I do that today, I'd be in jail right along with my guy.
Right.
And I also got 1 or 2 times slapped by police officers. As a matter of fact, a year and a half ago, I checked to see if this one cop that did me really wrong, planted pot in my car. I never heard of any Panama Red. And he pulled the bag out and goes, "Oh," right?
Now, this is in the 70s?
Yeah, and didn't charge me. In the 80s.
Oh, 80s.
And he said, he pistol whipped me, knocked me to the ground and hit me with his gun, right? And then his partner was laughing at, wham, he hit me again. So lo and behold, they both retired. One of them is a bounty hunter now, and the other one wants to go with me on a bounty. And he's Daryl Cinquanta and Subia. And they both said, "We're so sorry that we beat you up, but we've been watching your show and we want to ride with you." And I said, because they're both retired, right?
Sure.
Probably older than me. I hope they're still alive. But they.
Yeah, but why'd you get the smack though? Were you like giving them lip? Or
something? I
something?
called them pigs and I spit on them and I didn't care.
Yeah.
Your mama, this and that. I was like rude to cops. I hated cops. I shot at them, everything. I hated them.
You saying you actually shot at a cop?
Oh, yeah, I shot at a couple of them. Yeah, I knocked the bubble off of one cop with a 22 rifle. Pow, pow, pow. The bubble went off his car, right? So, they knew it was from me, but I hid underneath my dad was just digging a basement, and I hid underneath there, and I heard him say, I know it's that punk. We're going to tear gas him. Boom! And all of a sudden, man, that tear gas was so bad, and there was like a 6-foot. I put my head in the mud because I knew, when you talk about beating, I knew my dad was going to beat me, right? And he was very abusive. And I knew that he was going to beat me. And so that tears and crying and oh, dear God, please forgive me. And they said, "Oh, he ain't in there." And I was like, "Oh, thank you, Jesus," right? Because I was there. But I did not like police officers at all. As sheriff, all of them, the word was pig.
Mm-hmm. Up until what point did you change have you changed your tune? I mean, your poor son is right here. I mean,
wow.
I mean, should he leave the room?
Yeah.
No, listen, Gary boy. So San Bernardino, California, I hit a house by myself. And the SWAT team came, right? And they said, "The guy's in there, dog?" I go, "I saw him go in there." All right, so they went in and searched everywhere, right? And meanwhile, my truck got towed as I parked in the no parking zone, my rental truck. And so we went in, they looked everywhere. I go, "Did you guys go in the bathroom?" "Yeah." I said, did you pull back the shower curtain? And the lieutenant asked this other guy, did you pull back? I don't know. So the whole house is full of tear gas, right? And they go, dog, come on in with us. And I try to put that tear gas mask on. And I'm like, no. And it was burning so bad, even standing outside, right? Because I don't know what they used. And so when I was there, this lady brought up this bucket full of eggs, cracked eggs, all stirred up. She goes, put this all over your face. I go, what is that? She goes, it'll suck out the tear gas, right?
Okay.
And I'm like, man, these cops are stupid, right? So I did it, right? And then, you wouldn't believe how it sucks everything out.
It actually worked, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And so then I told the cop, listen, they towed my car, and he's like, you want to ride to the hotel? And I'm like, I didn't want to get in there, in that car with all them.
Bring back some memories.
With all them porkers, right? And so sorry.
What year are we talking about here?
Oh,
come on,
shoot.
give some context.
Let's see.
My poor cops watching this,
In the 80s, okay.
Early 80s, probably.
Yeah, because the guy jumped from Colorado to there, and I just went.
Yeah, so all right, so the porkers offered you a ride.
Right.
Okay.
And so I was put in a rock and a hard place. I go, okay,
Yeah.
let's go.
Yep.
And so I got in the van, right? And pretty soon they put on Jimi Hendrix. And they were, they were all air guitaring. Yeah, man, you like this guy, dog? I'm like, man, it's Jimi Hendrix. Of course I do. Yeah, man. And then we pull up to a stoplight, and this fine mama walked across, and they were like, wow, look at the legs on that one. Ow, right? And I'm like, what the heck, right?
Right.
And they said, dog, you got any money? I go, I got enough to get home, I got to get my car out of the pound, so they got it out for me. And then they bought my dinner, they did all kind of things, and right then I said, you know what? They're more than human.
Right.
They're just like me.
Right.
They're not no superstar. They're just trying to make a living. And they put their lives at risk, just like I do.
Right.
So that day right then, I started liking cops. Now, it took many years for any kind of cop to like me, okay? I mean, many years. And now, everywhere I go, every cop I say, we even buy them dinner if they're eating.
Yep.
And everywhere I go, they're all like, dog, can we get a selfie? I'm like, sure. So, I respect police officers more than I ever thought I would.
I tell you, I probably would tell you that one of the things that they respect about you the most, and is that your honesty. Because you have a checkered past, right? And at one point you were their customer, but now you're on their side. Trying to make our community safer. So, would you agree with that? I mean, doesn't every cop kind of like love, in a sense, like respect a person who's not involved in criminal conduct, but just like honest about their past, their mistakes.
Yeah, and I think people, like we were saying earlier, we're going to arrest people, some of the same people, all the time. But the ones that are most rewarding is when you do have that conversation with them. It's like, look, man, you need to go, and you need to get far away from this place.
Yeah.
And you need to get your life on track. You need to go to rehab. You need to do this kind of thing. And as many times as you kind of say that, and it gets kind of
redundant,
repetitive at sometimes.
Right. Yeah.
But you're just hoping that this guy's listening to you.
Yep.
And when those guys do finally listen, and they come back and you see them sober, I mean it's a good feeling. And I saw it when I'm like most officers. I went through corrections before I became an officer, and I got to see that in the jail a lot too. Was we see them when they got booked in, and they were high as a kite, and we got to see them sober up and start getting that belly back and like starting to gain weight and start looking good again. But we always were worried when they got released.
Yeah,
we're always like,
yeah.
Because they still know those people.
The shark's in the water.
Yeah, we know that they know where to go, and they tell us they know where to go. Like, and they're worried about it, and that was like one thing. And talking about religion and stuff is, in jails and prisons and stuff, I mean, the Lord's there, and especially there.
Right.
And so, we pray with them. Like, man, I'm praying for you that you get right and that you stay right. And a lot of them did. And in the jail is when I saw it the most. But on the road, unfortunately, it's not. You don't get to see that. And thankfully, not only do I have my jail experience that I lean on when it comes to that, but I've also had the experiences where I did arrest someone, and now I was going through a drive-through or something, and now they're the manager.
Which is awesome.
And like that, that's always a good.
It really is, yeah.
Yeah, and that's always a good sign. And you know, I'll tell you a situation. One time, you know, there's this guy who's wanting to kill himself out on a back county road, and it wasn't even my sector, and I was just going to back up the other units, and I went the back way. You know, they thought he was all the way over here, so I was just gonna, you know, sweep and make sure he wasn't on the back roads. And I got them on the back road, and you know, they're all sitting, and they've got the channel, and they're trying to, you know, set up a tactical plan, and I'm trying to get out on the radio. He's over here, like he's got a gun, you know, to his head.
Wow.
And you know, I'm sitting there trying to get on the radio, and I have to push the panic button to where it shuts them all up, and puts me on the radio. And you know, that was. You know, I was taking slack out of the trigger on that one when I thought I was going to have to get into a shooting because how he was moving with his gun and stuff like that. But he was high on fentanyl, and he was just real messed up. And this guy was on federal probation, had a gun. I mean, we could have really messed him up criminally wide, you know, and charged him.
Sure.
But we eventually talked him down. Me and my lieutenant at the time. We were able to talk him down, and you know, we just hooked him on publican talks, you know. But I had to sit there in the jail, in the hospital with him, where he was getting medically cleared because he couldn't go into the jail without, you know, being cleared.
Pause 1 second. I got a potty outside.
Yeah, good.
Real quick.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I might take a break, a potty break too.
Why are you going outside? Just go to the house.
Okay. Come on, brother. I'll show you
Yeah.
how to use the rest. You hit that? Yeah.
But yeah, so we eventually got the guy talked down and into custody. But the big thing that happened was I had to sit with him at the jail, and so we had a very long conversation about the Lord and, you know, being saved. And you know, he had 2 kids. He's on federal probation with a gun. And all that kind of stuff, and you know, we ended up not charging him with the gun, and we just hit him with the public intoxication. And you know, the guy gets clean, and at his hearing that he had, you know, he pled guilty to the PI, and you know, his only request was that he gets to thank me, you know, and the way he said it to the judge was, you know, he wanted to thank me for saving his life, is what he said to the judge. And so I get a call like, "Hey, judge wants to see you." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, what did I do?"
Yeah.
You know,
Usually it's
I
not
still
good.
get that feeling.
I know.
And
me too. Yeah.
so I had that gut wrenching feeling the whole time driving down there. And all in all, you know, there he is, and I mean, he's got the freaking face tattoos and all that. So I mean, he was the typical like gang member.
Yep.
But he sat there and he just broke down. He's like, "Man, you had every right to kill me that night and, you know, take me away from my family." And he's like, no one would have been upset that you would have done that. And I just thank you for what you did. And so it's situations like that and people like that make those, you know, make having those talks that sometimes seem repetitive. It makes it worth it all at the end of the day.
I will tell you that, you know, people that listen to this story, they're going to have their own opinions on it, but I'm actually working on a course about using good discretion. Yeah. Because the thing is, like, and you talk about your stories, like, that's one thing that bothers me about law enforcement is sometimes we have officers that just are, they're machines.
Yeah.
You know, gun plus felon equals crime. And yes, that's true, absolutely. But, you know, but there's also that human element, and what is our goal? Our goal is to actually get these people productive, right? I mean, to help. We are part of that. I mean, of course, the court system is the main part, but use good discretion. I mean, you know, that's a big one. That's an amazing outcome that oftentimes doesn't happen.
And a lot of, like, the guys that, for me, that I've been able to reach out to that are robots or we're robots. You know, the medium that I always find with guys is like, look, I get it. They've got a gram of meth.
Yep.
And I was like, I get it. Let's take it, bag it, do our report like we're originally going to do, but let's see what, you know, use your discretion, work them, see if you can if you can do anything other than taking them to jail and just throwing them in the system again.
Yeah.
And you know, if they burn you, or if they're not actually wanting to get better and do productive things with their life, then drop the warrant on them.
Yeah.
You know, and it's perfectly justifiable for you to do that. And so that's like how personally I have been able to, not only just me, because when I got out of the academy, I mean, I was hooking people up for dime bags.
100%.
I was any charge I can make, I was making it.
Yep.
But you know, as I've developed in my career, you know, and also my partners, we see the bigger picture in things now. And that's like what I'm most thankful for in my career is being able to see that bigger picture and
man.
You know.
Well, I've known cops that, book 'em Dano and possession of methamphetamine. They shut up. I don't want to hear a word, right? Well, do they realize that, a lot of the old biker things are, cocaine was for rich guys, and meth, no way. It's the snitch drug, because they gotta keep talking. They gotta keep talking. So you leave them in your car and tell them, listen, if you tell me where you're getting all this stuff, I may go into the judge and say, back behind chambers, and say, this guy helped me out. If it wouldn't be for him, I wouldn't have got the big guy.
Yeah.
And so, Judge, I'd like, usually the DA and the officer goes in and says, I'd like you to give this guy probation. I told him I wasn't sure.
You're right. You can't promise it.
Right, but I'd like to do that. And you'd be surprised at how much, there's an old expression, poop runs downhill. Mm-hmm. So if they'd realize that, once you get that guy and just keep working him, I know that really lately, the Tom Homan or some cops caught the MS-13 leader, close to the Capitol. And I know that I said this on Rita Cosby's show a couple weeks ago. I said, that they said they booked him in this jail they made for him, right? Well, when you got the leader in custody and you tell him, listen, you're doing life plus.
Right.
Now, where's some of your brothers at? Where's some of the people? Where's your drugs at? Well, I said that on her show. I said they didn't throw him in there in the hole. Now, a few days ago, they got the second in command, in another state. Well, how did they just, they don't have a crystal ball.
Yeah.
We rely on informants, or the old word for them, now they call them confidential informants.
Sure.
We'd call it snitches.
Yeah.
But we relied on snitches to tell us where the other guy was. A lot of guys we arrested had brothers and that, were older or younger, and they, when one guy jumps bail in a family, the other guy does it too, because they'll say, why are you going to court? You're going to prison. I'm out of here. And they both take off. So if they just stopped, gave the guy a break and listened, their careers would skyrocket.
Yeah, and I think it's important to reiterate, because I was just like you when I first became a trooper. I was, just everything. We call it trooperizing them. It was almost like stats, and being a trooper is a little bit different culture. We're more stat driven and so forth. But I'd say after, and I was making bad judgments out there. Like I was actually not doing a lot of good. Like I wasn't really changing behavior. And after like 2.5 years, I embarrassed. I was on a traffic stop, and these people were going like 90 something, and I was going to lunch. Yeah. So that's you don't mess with a trooper's lunch,
Yeah.
Right.
So, but I had to stop them. And the thing is, at the end of the day, was it Vegas doing 90? Was it the crime of the century? No. But I acted a fool. I was yelling at him, demeaning him, talking down to him. Not going to give him a ticket. But still, the point was, I just wasn't. If you saw me on camera, which we didn't have a lot of cameras back then, you would have been kind of embarrassed. Like Anthony's a little going off over what? I mean, come on, I do 90 sometimes, And the point is, after that, it was just that small thing is like, you know what? If my family saw me just now, I would embarrass them, right?
Right.
And then I matured. I just started calming down. Like not every. I just look at like I would pull over somebody that worked at McDonald's. Their car was expired by 3 months. Hey man, just get it fixed. Because they're not making that much money. They're a family, as long as they're not.
Right.
But I remember this. I knew I reached that pinnacle, just calming down. And somebody cut me off, and they put me into the dirt, and I spun out. In this huge dust cloud. And the person immediately pulled over. They knew that they just pushed the trooper right in the dirt. And I got, I pulled up behind him. I walked up and I said, "That's pretty scary, huh?" He's like, "Yes, sir. Am I going to jail?" I'm like, "Nah, man. It's like, just next time look." And I didn't give him a ticket.
Right.
Just be calm. Like, just talk to people, right? I mean, you earn a lot of respect out there by just talking to people.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you're going back in the game.
Yes, sir.
That's official.
Yes.
So Blue to Gold will be producing this TV show. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir. Yes. Let's do it.
We need a producer on this show. So you're going to is this Georgia? Is that where you're going to be? Or you're going to be nationwide? Or how's
When
this
are
work?
you airing this?
Huh?
When are you airing it?
This was going to be. It's going to probably take me at least a couple weeks to dice it.
So let's leave Georgia out.
Yeah,
'Cause
leave Georgia
I
out.
don't want no one to know we're moving.
Correct.
You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
exactly.
Okay.
So you're getting back in the game.
Yes, sir.
You're going to be bounty hunting again.
Yes, sir.
Why?
Because I'm a bounty hunter.
Right.
I'm preaching Francie and I across the country, going into prisons and all that, and not that I won't continue doing that, but I'm a freaking bounty hunter, and I'm the best bounty hunter in the world. Nobody, even Leland, is ever going to be able to catch my record.
Mm-hmm.
So, my wife said, "Do you like preaching?" I said, "Yes." "Well, do you like speaking?" "Yes." Well, because I was a speaker with Tony Robbins for a minute.
Well.
And then I thought, she goes, "Well, honey," she heard me talking in my sleep or something. "What do you really want to do?" And that's what I tell young guys. I can't get a job nowhere. What do you want to do?
A great question.
And so I told her, "Honey, I want a bounty hunt." She said, "Well, let's do it." And so, yes, I'm going back in the game.
Wow.
Bounty hunter.
That's incredible.
It's kind of funny too because you look at cops. Everyone's like, okay, 25 years and I'm out.
Yeah.
Those are the same ones that keep saying that they're 25 years and out. Yeah, there's some that actually 25 years and they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But there's cops out there that have been doing it for 40 years, and it's just like they were the ones that said, "Oh, at that 25-year mark, I'm
Right.
done."
Right.
But it's like once you find what you like doing, and
Yep.
you have a passion for it, you're never going to be able to give it up. And that's how I feel like I'm going to be. Right now I'm telling, oh yeah, 25 years. But when that moment comes up, when it's, do I have to put the badge up? I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. But one thing that I want to make sure that I do is whenever I do put up my badge, and it goes in the shadow box, and I get the engraved pistol, the retirement pistol, I just want to be able to be proud of what I was able to accomplish
Yes.
when it was on my chest.
Well, I was here hunting for Brian Laundrie. You haven't heard of him, but he's big in Florida. And so we went hunting, Francie and I. And so as we went to the dock up there, there was 3 or 4 guys, right? And I go, "Hi," and they go, "Hi, I'm ex-CIA, I'm ex-FBI, I'm ex-homicide detective. We did our 25 years." Well, they retire feds at 54.
Yeah.
And so the Bible says you start getting wisdom and knowledge in your early 50s.
Right.
And so this guy said, "Dog, the first day we went hunting," he goes, "Okay, we'll do the hunting and you just handle the media." I go, "It's hard to be alpha dog around those guys." I go,
Yeah.
"Sir, get behind me. I'll do the hunting and the media. Don't worry." And then later on they go, "I thought that TV show was fake." I said, "It's not." And he goes, "Dog, you saved my life." If I would have caught another fish, I was just getting ready to shoot myself in the head. I missed this action so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had a show that didn't go, but it was going to be called Dog the Bounty Hunter and the Essentials.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked up the word essentials, and it means something that you have to have.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to have it. So it's in their blood. I mean, just like it is in mine. It's in their blood. So, his mom said that she was going to bounty hunt, until, what'd you say, her boots fell off, or I'm going to bounty hunt, and she actually bounty hunted to, not her last breath, but she bounty hunted as long as she
close
could.
to it.
I could not believe it. She was out there right along with us.
Yeah.
Oh, she said, I'm going to die with my boots on.
Right.
And if she wouldn't have had to go to the hospital and all that, I thought even, should I put her boots on her or her high heels? And she always wore high heels, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, before she passed, should I go in there? And I bought a pair of high heels to the hospital, and then I started to get out of the car and I was like, I better not do that, right? But it's in it, whether you're man or woman is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
If it gets in your blood, it don't ever go away.
Yep.
It doesn't. It's the only profession that I know that you can keep going and going and going.
Yeah, it's true. Well, I'll end off on this. Your son went through our, our Blue to Gold instructor class. He is now teaching Search and Seizure. So all I ask is you guys keep going, but make good case law in the process,
Amen.
right?
Yeah.
And he's also teaching his other fellow officers how to make good case law. We were talking about a little scenario that he ran into, just the other day, and it's exactly, and he made the right answer. Other officers didn't quite have the right answer, but that's what he's there for. So it's been, Dog, I
Yes,
truly mean
my
it.
pleasure, brother.
It's been an absolute privilege. Gary, thank you so much for putting this all together. This
Yes,
is
sir.
definitely one of my experiences that I'll never forget. So
And let me tell you something, son.
please.
You don't go anywhere, son, without that badge. You stand for truth, justice, and the American way. And I don't care where you're at, you're a cop. Your bloodline is a cop. All my boys are bounty hunters or law enforcement. You're the top of the line, the last son, my baby. You carry that badge for your daddy everywhere you go. You promise me that right now?
I do.
Thank you. I love you very much.
You can get the flexible badge. It doesn't have to be. It just better be a badge at least.
Yeah.
Well, mine has the little
Well, let's end off the show with the badge.
Mine has a little clip right on it.
Can I see it?
Yes.
So, this is, I'm going to show the camera. So there it is right there. I'm holding Dog the Bounty Hunter's badge. It doesn't get any better than that.
You see my number on there?
It's 271097. I want to guess what that is.
Go.
I want to say something to
Go.
your huh?
What do you think?
The prison.
Yes.
Yeah, your prison number.
Yep.
Yep. You've seen this before, obviously, many times.
Yeah.
But Dog Chapman, Fugitive Recovery, Bail Enforcement, and then Dog on the bottom with your prison number. You know what? To go, make right decisions in the future, you have to know where you came from.
Yes.
That's right.
Amen.
Amen.
And then let me tell you, when you said about, the jails, the county jails, the prisons are full of demons and next to hell. But the Bible says, where sin doth abound, grace much more doth abound. In other words, no matter how much sin is there, the grace and forgiveness of God is stronger in them jails than it is on the streets.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
The Lord is
Well, I just wanted to give you a scripture to base your
I think
theory
that's
on.
great.
Yeah.
Well, until next time, my friends, I appreciate
sir.
it.
Aloha.
Thank you.
Sir.
All right, and thank you guys to the Blue to Gold audience. It's been a real
Yes.
pleasure, and I hope you enjoy this podcast. All right, until next time, my friends, you guys stay safe.
And aloha.